we could definitely go ahead and start with the first team and probably the biggest trade this year. And it's up for debate because some people thought that the Kyrie to the Mavs trade was big, but at the end of the day, it doesn't get no bigger than Kevin Durant going to a 60 plus win Phoenix Suns team that just needed one more piece to get over that hump.
Yep, I think that was definitely the biggest trade that happened. I mean, you're talking about a legendary player. He's gonna end up being a first ballot Hall of Famer for sure. This guy's gonna end up being top five in scoring. I mean, Kevin Durant is definitely the number one trade that happened. Right during the trade deadline. Even though not many people thought it was gonna happen, they still thought he was gonna stay on the Nets for the remainder of the season. But he was like, "I'm out of there. Let me go to Phoenix, the warm weather."
Nah, and obviously you can imagine a player like Kevin Durant, you gotta give up something to get him. So to get Kevin Durant and T.J. Warren in that deal from the Brooklyn Nets, the Phoenix Suns had to give up Michael Bridges, Cam Johnson, Jay Crowder, and four unprotected first round picks.
Yep.
But the good news is they was able to get rid of what seemed to be a very, very efficient core without having to get rid of DeAndre Ayton.
Which is great.
Granted,
They kept
right.
Ayton, they kept, obviously Chris Paul, and they kept Devin Booker. That's what you wanted. You got your core, plus you added a superstar. That's incredible what they did there. Obviously, they had to do it with a three-team trade, so they had to move like some pieces around, plus their future unprotected first-round picks that they had to give
Hmm.
up, which is kind of tough because you don't know what's going to happen in 5 years in Phoenix. But obviously, you see what they're trying to do with that trade. You see that they're in a win now mentality.
I mean, it's 100%. On paper, they're clearly the best team at this point, just with that starting five. Obviously, we got to see what type of chemistry they can offer. But at the end of the day, we traded away the farm for a player who honestly has been a little injury prone the last couple of years. It has to be a win now or championship or bust mentality. So that's definitely what they're looking at this year. And obviously, they've been to the finals in the last 2 years. They really were right there. So it does seem like they did what they had to do to kind of give them that piece.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was the best piece that they needed because they needed a guy that can close it out in the end, like literally in the final minutes of the game. Obviously, we know Booker is a great shooter, and in the end of the game, I don't know if they wanted to trust him, the Phoenix organization and Chris Paul. I think that he was taking a lot of those late game shots where he shouldn't have been either. So now you got a guy like Kevin Durant that could definitely make those last second shots and take the final 5 minutes of the game and literally have the ball in his hands. Obviously, Chris Paul is going to be more of the facilitator and passer, but Kevin Durant is going to have the ball in his hands when he needs it, when he gets on the field or on the court. It was it was sad to see him getting injured in the warm up line playing for Phoenix for a second game. He played his first game in Phoenix when he got traded there, and then the second game going in the layup line, he twists his ankle and is out. And we're not gonna see him till right before probably a week before the playoffs start. So it's gonna be interesting to see their core coming together. So we really haven't seen all of them together. But the Suns also got another player. They got Darius Baisley and in the trade deadline, and Baisley. I think he was a good pickup, honestly. He came from Oklahoma City Thunder. In Oklahoma City, he didn't get many minutes. He got like 8 minutes a game, but now that he's in Phoenix, he's getting like 15, 16 minutes a game because Phoenix needed that depth. Especially in that second unit, they need that depth, and he's a good piece for them, I think. So they got two good pieces. Kevin Durant obviously a great piece, but Darius Baisley is great too.
No, 100%. And now it's unfortunate KD got injured, but he should be back in playoffs. And as long as they stay healthy, it's definitely their chance to prove who they are as a team. Granted, obviously, losing Cam Johnson and Michael Bridges really does put a big notch in that defense and knock them down a little bit in the rankings. But at this point, with KD, CP3, and Booker, you have the best mid-range team in the league, who's already averaging way more mid-range shots
True.
over everyone else. And in the
Well, that's
West,
mostly because of Devin Booker.
no, CP3 is a big part
And
of that as
CP, yeah,
well.
yeah, yeah. That's true. He's
Um,
not a 3-point shooter. That's true. You're
Yeah,
right.
because in the
You're right.
West, that's their game plan to get those mid-range shots. Because in the West with all them bigs, they usually they drop. they drop, they sag. They
Yep.
pretty much have to allow you to have space coming off that screen to keep you from getting to the basket. So they most teams want you to settle for that mid range, but unfortunately, this is a team where that's actually their game plan. So
But
it's
they're still
definitely
one of the higher scoring teams in the league. They're top seven scoring, like for points against. So that's still great. They score a lot of points, and that is because now you had two guys that can easily score 20 and Aiton and Booker, but now you're gonna have pretty much three guys that can score over 20, and maybe Aiton's gonna take that step down now because obviously he's probably the guy that's not going to get the ball as much into paint. It's going to be mostly facilitated from the outside now. He's just going to be mostly the rebounder. I could see him getting 10 and 10 now, but now with Kevin Durant on that squad, I see him taking at least like 16 to 20 shots a game. So definitely Kevin Durant's going to be averaging around 25, and the guy that's going to have to take that step back is Aiton. So I think that they're going to actually get some more 3-point shots from Kevin Durant. Plus Darius Bazley, I'm telling you, he was actually a good 3-point shooter as well for Oklahoma City. He didn't score there, but now he's averaging like 8 points a game for the Suns, so that's not bad.
No, yeah, he's definitely gonna get a lot of minutes and just a chance to prove himself because they pretty much depleted their bench. So I mean, the biggest question is definitely gonna be their health and DeAndre and
True.
how can they use him in the playoffs. But at the end of the day, you are in the West and you have big, so you are gonna have to bang down low, and you are gonna have to implement your big in some sort of game plan, especially when you're playing against Jokic and teams like that. So I definitely want to see what they offer to the playoffs, but definitely got KD coming back right before the playoff run. How far do you think this new team takes them? How far do you think they can go?
See, this is interesting because I do think that this was the best trade to happen in the trade deadline. I think this trade made this team a title contender. I mean, I guess you could say that for another team that we're going to talk about, but I think that talking about this team, I think that they already pretty much were a title contender. They've been to the finals, 2 years ago, but we know that they couldn't get over the hump. But now they actually have that player that can take them over the hump. We've seen Kevin Durant do that with the Golden State Warriors, and I think that him being here now, like you said, it all depends on health. It all depends on health. But looking at their potential and just looking at the team that they could have on the court, I definitely expect them to go far in the West. I expect them to go to the Western Conference Finals. I'm going to predict that right now, and they will be one of the teams, that's going to be fighting for a championship. It depends on who they match up with in that Western Conference Finals, but for me, I
Nah,
think
be
that
bold. Say it. Be
I think that
bold.
they're the favorite in the West. I think they're a
Who's going to the
favorite.
finals?
I can't say it yet because I think it all depends on matchups. Because we're gonna talk about another team and later that we'll see how far they get. But I do think that they're definitely gonna get to the Western Conference Finals for me, and they are the favorite in that matchup. Whoever they match up with, they're gonna be the favorite. So obviously, like they're looking at the number 4 spot right now, so that's not great, and they're really like only 3 games back from the number 13 spot. I mean, that's
That
insane.
West is so close.
So it's crazy. It's so tight there. Like you get literally 4 games between the 13th, or sorry, the 12th spot and the 4th spot, which is insane. That means that you can literally be out of the playoffs, or you can have home field advantage
Hmm.
within losing 2 games and then the other team winning 2 games. So this is going to be a crazy last 2 weeks of the NBA season, but that's my prediction. I got them going to the Western Conference Finals, and we'll talk about who they have to match up with later. But what do you think though about them? What's their potential?
Honestly, definitely got to say Western Conference Finals. I mean, and while there are some teams they might not match up the best against, I mean, I'm gonna have to say just on paper, uh, good health and believe it or not, they actually the eight and actually match up well against Denver.
He does.
He
He
does match
does.
up well against Denver, so I'm not too worried about the big play. So I'll be honest, I'm gonna be bold, man. There's one other team that I'm gonna say the same thing, but I guess I gotta pick one because I got two teams. Obviously, I got that I think that will make the conference finals, and I do think um,
Are we gonna talk about both of these teams today?
Actually, not with a recent injury. Now I'm thinking about it. Yeah, I got this team going to the finals.
Wow.
I'll be bold and say I got this team going to the finals, barring any injuries and all that. Obviously, we don't
Right.
know
Of
how
course.
the
And
playoffs are going to
KD's
look.
got to come back as well, because
Exactly.
I think
KD's
if KD
definitely.
doesn't come back, then I don't have them going to the Western Conference Finals if KD doesn't come back. Now, like I said, even if they keep that number 4 seed, I think that they can make it to the Western Conference Finals. Um, I, I just want to know real quick though, with the potential that we see in Phoenix right now, with the team that they have, they already signed Booker to a long deal. They still got Ayton on a long deal. Obviously, they just got KD. Do you just a quick question about this? Do you think that they're gonna win a title with KD?
No.
Oh,
All right. So okay.
wow.
Unbiased. Yeah,
Hmm.
but
What about
you
bias? You
you
don't
got to
want
get
them
through.
to
You got
win.
to get no. It's not even want them at this point. I'm not even like I take the Celtics over every team this season.
Gotcha, gotcha.
I literally
But
take
no,
the
I'm not
fully
just saying
healthy
this season.
Celtics.
Let's say like in the next 3 years. Do you expect them to win a championship in the next 3 years? Let's say that, because they're all pretty
Honestly,
much under contract for that.
this year is I don't want to say their only chance, but this year is their best chance.
Wow. Oh, wow. I see. I don't agree there.
You can't.
No,
Yeah, I do.
no, no, no. Because
You can't expect KD to give you a fully healthy season. So
no,
him
that's
coming
true.
back right before the
That's true.
playoffs is the best chance because we do not know what's gonna happen next year. I promise you, I don't trust KD to get to next year's playoffs right now, the way he's been playing the last 2 years. So for me, that's why I said for them it's championship and bust. They know his injury history. Yeah, they're upset he just got injured, but at this point, they know that this is a very short term deal.
That's a
His
fair
body
point.
is
I
breaking
think
down.
that's definitely a fair point. But I don't agree that this is their best chance, because I'm looking at the West and I just think this is the toughest we've seen the West in the last probably 5 to 10 years, to be
It's gonna
honest.
get tougher.
It might, or there might be
That's what I'm
trades
saying.
happening in the future. There
Clippers
might be
gonna get
people getting
Paul George
retired.
back.
I don't know. I just see them having a easier time, not this year, but I see an easier time like getting the full season with KD, getting the whole training camp with KD. Maybe CP might not even be there, and you might get a whole new starter there. Maybe Cameron Payne might be the the new Phoenix point
And
guard
at
there
that
next year.
point,
But
they dropped from 12th defensively to 18th defensively. That's what I'm saying. Like at this point, any alteration to that team isn't going to improve because you can't get any better offensively, and you're already lost a lot of defense. Anything you lose, including Chris Paul, you're losing more defense. And at this point, even teams like the Kings, they're going to be hot next year. Look how they did
that's
this
true.
year.
That's true. That the
You know,
Kings
so I was
definitely
just
could be
saying,
hot.
this
Memphis
is their
could be
best
hot as
year.
well.
That's what I'm saying.
But I'm just saying, like right now, looking at the West, like they're hot right now. Like Sacramento's hot right now. Memphis is hot right now.
And that's what I'm
Denver is
saying.
hot right now. So
And that
that's the problem right now. Like, so if you get a full season with KD
you won't.
and Booker, but I'm just
But I'm
saying,
saying you keep saying if like look at what we wanted and what we expected
and
from
not
the
even a full
Brooklyn
season
Nets in
though,
the
because
last three
you
years. We had two of the best trio teams that we've seen in our decade, and not once have it came to fruition because of mainly injuries after injuries, and the big part of that was KD. You can't say that next year you think
I
they're
don't
going
know.
to be even better suited when literally you don't know if they're going to be healthy next
I
year.
don't know. Last year, KD played by himself on the Nets. Like my man, like took the Nets to the first round of the playoffs by himself. So
But he
I don't
wasn't
know.
there the whole season. But
I
I'm
mean,
saying
he was
him.
there for like 69,
But I'm
like
saying
70 games or something
him
like that. Like
playing
Kyrie
by
wasn't there
himself
last year.
doesn't mean
No,
like
not.
you can't sit here and expect KD and say, oh well, if you sit here and say I'm gonna make an assumption that KD is gonna play a full season, then you have to assume that every other team is gonna also get better
I'm
because
not
you
saying
can't.
that, but did we not just say barring injury? We were just saying barring injury
So
like a
barring injury,
previous second ago. But what I'm saying is KD is going to average 65 games for the season. I'll take
for
that.
what season?
I mean, last year that's what he did
He
when
didn't do it
Kyrie
this
wasn't
year.
there. Kyrie wasn't there. He's
Literally,
playing.
take that man last four. He like take that man's average since he came back from his big injury,
I
and
mean,
you tell me how much
he
he's
didn't
playing.
come back until last year. So like that's the
He
thing.
came back about 2 years ago. But that's the point. He got injured again.
No, he came. He was out for a whole season, if you remember. But when he just got to the Nets, Kyrie was starting. He was the starter at the Nets when they both got traded there, and KD didn't play that whole season that first year. Then the next season, Kyrie had the issues with COVID the vaccine and stuff, so he couldn't play. And then you had Harden and KD playing together, and then Harden left, and then it was just KD playing most of the season because they still didn't let Kyrie play until pretty much like the 60th game. He played the last 20 games of the season, Kyrie did. And then they got to the playoffs. They lost to your Boston Celtics actually 4-0. And that's what I mean. Like that was last
Well,
year. So
so look at that.
KD
Even this
played.
year, he's only played about half the season.
I know. I
So
know.
that's what I'm saying. Like you
Yeah.
can't expect. So that's what I'm saying. So even them barring injury, then you have to expect barring injury the Clippers to be a better team than the Phoenix next year.
And that's where we're gonna talk about that too, though. We're definitely gonna talk. But that's what I'm saying. If I'm giving them 3 years. So my answer to that question, like, so your answer is totally no. In the next
No,
three years,
my
they
answer
don't
is
win.
if they don't win this year, their chances decrease after
Got you.
this year.
And
Yeah.
that might be fair. I mean, honestly, that's fair because you might be right about the West. The West is getting good. You also got Chet Holmgren could hop
I
on the
mean, granted, I
OKC.
don't
You
think they're
got.
gonna be a
I'm just
big
saying
playoff
they're in the
contention, but
playoffs
that's
right now.
gonna be
They're
a
in a
fun
playoff
team to
push right now.
watch
They're
next
eighth
year.
spot without him right now.
Yeah.
They got first round picks that they could trade to get Wembanyama if they wanted to. I'm not I'm not predicting anything. That just like in the wildest NBA 2K dreams. If you get that type of team. But then you also definitely got teams like New Orleans and Zion. Maybe they trade him, but who knows what happens with them. So you're right there. You're right that there's hotter teams, but you're telling me that a team that, and I'm not sure if this is this is CP's last season because he hasn't announced it, and you think he would to get that that retirement season. So
No,
I don't
right,
think
right,
his
right.
last season, to be honest. Maybe next year will be, but let's say next. I mean, I think next year might be their best chance getting a decent season with KD, 65 games. I'm hoping with a good season from Booker and CP. I could see them being the number one seed in the West next year, and that's when I see them having the best chance. So one out of the next 3 years, I see them winning the championship.
Shit, they got to get through this year.
You're right. You're right, and I think this is the toughest test. I think this is the toughest test because any time, any guy, or sorry, anyone they have to play in the playoffs is gonna be a top team because it doesn't matter who they have to play. Like if they're fourth seed, if they're eighth seed, like they're still gonna have to play a really good team. So that's why I think it's gonna be the hardest road, to be honest.
No, it. I mean, anyone in the West is going to be hard. They're probably the best teams on paper. So if anything, any team facing them is going to have a hard road, and not the other way around. 'Cause at the end of the day, even while the Denver Nuggets are probably going to be higher seeding, if you get a healthy KD come back, there's no one that's going to
You're betting on
not.
them.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone's gonna bet on that team.
All right.
So I definitely want to see. But honestly, like I said, we don't know what next year's gonna bring. But we don't know what type of injuries are gonna happen.